call, please, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Beagle?
I'm here.
Deputy Mayor Resnick?
Present.
Councilmember Behrman is excused. Councilmember Gotchel?
Here.
Councilmember Grenlin Fox? Here. Councilmember Sharp?
Present.
Councilmember Smiley?
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Changes or additions to the agenda as presented tonight. City Manager?
I have none, sir.
Anything to dais? All right, so now we'll move on to approval of minutes. We've got two sets of minutes to approve tonight. The first one is the joint meeting minutes of May 31st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any questions, corrections, additions? Councilmember Sharp?
No questions, but what a job, Kathy. My goodness. It
Oh,
was,
it was-
was that Crystal?
No, it was Mona.
Oh, man. Really well done. So pass my thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the joint meeting minutes of May 31st, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second set of meeting minutes are the regular city council meeting minutes of June 13th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Support.
Very good. Any questions, corrections, comments? Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the regular city council meeting minutes of June 13th, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no correspondence tonight. Call to the public. The call to the public rules are as follows. The public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included in the agenda immediately after correspondence, and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council, and all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the first call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the first call to the public. Move on to consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the items will be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion?
Oh, yeah.
I'll go back to city. Okay, I'll do city manager reports.
Oh, yeah. You can have it right there.
Yeah. I'm going after that
I was
record.
with you.
I'm going after that record.
It's got the over, apparently.
City manager report. Do we have any questions for? Oh, okay. Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you. It's on the economic development report from Mr. Benson. It said, met with a local company that offers local government partnerships to install the EV charging stations at no cost to the community with the council chair. It's a far cry different from our SemaConnect contract that we have now, correct?
Yes, it is a completely different arrangement. We're looking into the option. There are pros and cons to that, just like there are pros and cons to the SemaConnect option. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily imminent, but it's something that we are looking into, and any recommendation would be brought forward to you all.
I think one of the important things is some of the local landlords downtown, where you have captive audiences for long periods of time, whether it's restaurants or whatever, might be an option instead of the actual street itself. I know you said to install on local city streets, but we'd have to work with the landlords, of course.
Yes. Well, then the other piece that we're trying to make sure of is in a situation where there's little to no cost to the city, there are obviously trade-offs in terms of what kind of signage there might be on these chargers, and whether that really is what we're looking for in the community. What control do we have over the cost of the charging itself? So there's a lot of factors. It's been a very interesting kind of conversation, but and as mentioned in my report, other communities have opted to go this route for like public parking lots. So something we're certainly looking into.
Right. More to come. Thank you.
Councilmember Gotchel?
Thank you. Related to the water report, so I guess maybe for Tim, since Ruben isn't here, but it seemed like an inordinate amount of complaints about billing, whether it was bills that people didn't notice come through the mail, or mainly, why is my water bill so high? I noticed one of the complaints, someone said the resident called in, they had a $700 water bill. So I know that our new provider is doing more frequent live reads rather than estimates, but it seems like there might be something else going on as well, agitating people?
So there's several things that go on with water meter reads. One of them, this time of year, they're just going through and reading all of the meters, so it'll be due that before late fees, so you get that last month of May, you get more frequent calls because they're just looking at the bill because it's due at the end of the month kind of thing, so they're going to see that more in May. And each month is different in that regard. This one was a spring bill, so the averages don't necessarily hit with irrigation meters and whatnot, but you know, when they do look at those, when they get the calls, they look at the history, see what types of use they have at that quarter of the year. Typically on that house, it could be they're just starting up their pool, or they're, you know, different things. So there are a number of things that can happen. Other things though that happen during the winter months is you know, leaky toilets and those kind of things. So F&V has been helping to identify those. So you're right, they have narrowed down an awful lot of the reading problems already, and they do a number of specific touchpad reads still because of the metering systems that we have in place. But yeah, I think they've answered all the questions that have been in the report.
Do you know offhand what percentage of bills that go out are actual read versus estimates?
Typically we try and keep it below like 250, so we have 3,800 reads that they do, and we try and keep it below the 250 mark, so it's less than 10% typically.
Less than 10% is an actual read, or less than?
Less than 10% are estimated at that point. And yeah, it's been a while since we've tracked that, because they've been much better at getting those reads accurately. And with the new BSNA software that we have, it's much easier to track it and much easier to see what those reads are.
Okay. Yeah, I know it can come as a shock, and especially reading through that list, it came as a big shock to a lot of people, especially when you get a $700 water bill for your house. So just want to make sure that it's not an estimation issue, because I know when we brought them on, you had mentioned, or shortly thereafter, you had said that they're heavier on the actual read, whereas our previous provider was heavier on the estimate. So I think a lot of people are still maybe getting used to having an actual tally on their water usage rather than a guesstimate.
Yep.
But I'm not sure if we can maybe put together a list of common potential issues that are leading to high water bills, whether, like you mentioned, leaky toilets or things like that, dripping faucets, potential irrigation leaks, even just things for people to think of and put it on the website or something, because we don't, even one of the comments said, can I pay on a payment plan? No one should be that high where they need a payment plan, so.
That's, yes, and there are payment plans available through the RAP program through Oakland County already, and they can provide for that. We can get them phone numbers if they call us on those things. The RAP program is something that we as a city also provide through GLWA. So the Great Lakes Water Authority has a program in place, and they've been working with Oakland County to make that a success. So it has been working on that end. It does depend on the finances of the families that are requesting that. Just because you have a large bill doesn't necessarily mean that you would receive those, but they do screen those calls. And yeah, that's worked quite well through Oakland County.
Now, and it's kind of a mixture of something that's later on our agenda and just billing questions, but it looks like we had a nice surplus for both wastewater and water funds when we're in our end of year budget. Like, we brought in more revenue than we had anticipated.
Because we haven't increased the rate, is that what you're referring to, or you're
Just in general, and we can, I guess,
In
we can
general-
get to it later as well when we get to the actual numbers, but when I was going through those, I had noticed that we had brought in more wastewater and water revenue, I believe.
Yeah, so over the last 5 or 6 years, we've been trying to bring that value up because it is an enterprise fund and we're self-funded as far as catastrophic events and those kind of things. We do need to keep a certain amount in those funds that we need. In the past, we haven't done that as well as we could have, and that's why the rates had to be brought up for that reason. And we compare those on an annual basis with all the capital programs that we have, and we also look at the 10-year capital plan as far as preparing for that. So this year may look like a good year, and so that's why the rates have stayed stable over that, and we want to continue to keep that way. So it is reviewed every year, and we did that back in March of this year. So we'll do it again next March.
Okay. I think it might just be something to keep an eye on if we're continuing to bring in more and more compared to what we need, and we're still growing the fund balance because we need to be doing that, but if we're even beyond that, then hopefully it's on somebody's mind besides mine that maybe we can start to peel off a little bit.
Yeah, there are multiple areas that we need to replace, hydrants, we need to replace stop boxes. We have, a half a mile of water main that we'd like to put in the Gunner Matella. And there's a number of capital expenses that are coming that, we are going to be programming in. So, keep those in mind as well.
Thank you.
Councilmember Carolyn Fox.
Thank you. I had a question about PFAS. Do you think you could give us just a short memo and an update, let us know where we're at with that, where we're at with the company that had the issue? I haven't seen an update lately, and I just kind of like to see where we're at.
Sure. So,
Just in a memo is fine, you don't have to do it.
Okay, yeah, we continue to sample. We've got a number of things that are still going on with that. There are a number of different aspects to it. That's kind of a broad memo. If you're just specifically asking about the company here in town, yeah, we can do that quite well. No problem.
Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Sickman, this, I guess, for you, two things. One, the building department report, a lot of action on code enforcements, which is really good to see. But I wrote a note to Ken Pike yesterday morning asking him about the unkept property 13. We've been hearing some feedback from owners' meetings and all homeowners association meetings about people letting their properties deteriorate a bit. And so I asked him if he could give me any details on the 13 units. Is that available? I'm not asking you to get it. I don't need it tonight or anything.
Familiar with the 13?
I'm just...
the 13 in the building?
Yeah, 13 unkept properties in the building. He would have like a list of what those addresses were and maybe the status, do you think? Like what they did, they asked them to do something and whether they've done something or not, or...
Yeah, that's
Okay,
all.
that's all I need to know. Am I barking up the right tree to ask Ken to provide that to me?
It
Should be available,
provided,
okay. And Daryl Hunt apparently is back up this week, is that?
Darrell?
Oh, Darrell, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Other question, the engineering report about the sidewalk project on the south side of Pontiac Trail, wrapping it up. The project looks great. This is west of Wixom Road, south of Pontiac Trail, the new sidewalk. The project looks great. Sidewalk's nice, the ginkgo trees are beautiful. The boxes themselves are nicely spaced out. The plantings look great. I'm not a big fan of the brick that somebody chose for the planters themselves, and I'm just one voice, but what I'm interested in is who selected the brick. It looks like dirty, black concrete, something weird. I don't understand the color choice. I'm just one person, but if there was a group, I mean, planning commission, usually all 7 commissioners vote on that kind of stuff. So I was wondering who picked the colors for the planters on the south side of.
So there have been, I don't recall, to be honest. I mean, we've been looking at that particular area for the last 3 years, so.
I can speak to that a little bit better. So when the project came back up, ultimately it ran through the DDA. Their design committee did look at it. They were involved in the entire kind of design and review process, including looking at the renderings. What I will tell you though, it's kind of funny you mentioned the bricks. We did get to a point that when we were actually getting, ready to do construction, there were some of the exact colors that we couldn't get. And so we had to pick close equivalents, right? What was the closest to what the original design was that was available? So what ultimately is there is very similar to what was originally intended, and I'd say relatively close to the renderings, but I don't know that it perfectly matches the original intention, and that's because that's what we can get. But it did go through a pretty rigorous review process, and I believe there were even conversations on some of those amendment pieces.
Well, I'd be interested to hear what the design committee thinks about the final selection, because it's, in my mind, it's not exactly aesthetically pleasing, but I'm just one person. Okay, the last thing, just a comment. The water bills that Councilmember Gottschall referred to about going on a payment plan, that's called the Highland Park plan. That's not a good one. They turn your sprinklers off, check your backup sump pumps. Sometimes those are water fed. So if you're getting a $700 water bill, it's probably an estimate from previous quarter. I would say I can't imagine using that much water, even if you're watering your yard. That's a lot.
I've seen a number of them.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Deputy Mayor Resnick.
And a comment to that. I had one, and it was $1,020, but I was contacted by our water department, and they said something's wrong. And sure enough, my backup sump had been running for 4 months straight.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so quiet, I didn't know it was running.
Yeah.
But anyway, does happen.
All right. Seeing no other questions for the city manager's report, I will now move on to the consent agenda, and all items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the items will be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion?
Support.
I got a motion and a support to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have no unfinished business tonight, which moves us on to the first item under new business, and it's a recommendation to approve the year-end budget amendments and request for commitment of fund balance to comply with the Uniform Budget Act 621 and Governmental Accounting Standards Board pronouncement 54, and more accurately reflect fiscal year 2022-2023 revenues and expenses. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right. Finance Director Stamper.
Yep, this is just prior to fiscal year end. It's customary to amend the budget to more accurately reflect the actual revenue and expenditures for the prior fiscal year. The last meeting in June is our last opportunity to make any amendments to our budget. We can't do anything after tonight, and this report is just a customary request to do so for all funds that we need to amend those budgets for.
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment because I'm big on the interest. I couldn't believe every fund had an interest balance. We estimated like $2,000-$3,000. It was $60,000 or something crazy like that. I don't know what it all added up to. One of them was, I think the general fund was $200,000. So I assume we're close to $300,000 or $400,000 total the city brought in just on interest. So all those years of the equity markets returning 15%, we're stuck in bonds and low risk municipal things making 4 or 5%. It's looking pretty good right now, so thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Grellen Fox?
I have a question. One thing just kind of stood out to me, and it was the police fringes. And the only reason why is because I know we've had some turnover, and so we have younger, I shouldn't say younger, less senior employees that are in the department. So I would think fringes would go down as opposed to go up.
Hopefully, as we move forward, that will be the case, but we had a lot of retirements this fiscal year. So there were a lot of payouts. Yeah, we had several in the police department. So hopefully, as we move forward, that will be the case.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That was-
But it would have been worse if not for the better experience.
All right, seeing no other questions, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to approve the year-end budget amendments and request for commitments of fund balance to comply with the Uniform Budget Act 621 and Governmental Accounting Standards Board Pronouncement 54 and more accurately reflect fiscal year 2022-2023 revenues and expenditures. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moves us on to new business number 2, which is a recommendation to authorize the city manager, as recommended by the Wage and Salary Committee, to implement wage and benefit adjustments for non-union employees, excluding the city manager and city clerk, and adopt the revised salary grade structure for non-union employees for fiscal year 2023-2024, effective July 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Support.
Very good. City Manager Brown?
Thank you, Your Honor. So we have an administrative summary that addresses the fact we had a wage and salary meeting on June 19th to discuss a variety of topics. There were basically really just 2 primary ones, and that was non-union salary grade structure and wage increases for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, which is coming up. And it gives a little bit of background in there about how the city has gone through a recent wage and salary study in 2022 for our non-union positions. And the history of what we had done at that time, and what the recommendation to wage and salary was, and what the ultimate recommendation from wage and salary was to budget for 3% wage increases for non-union employees. And then we have our ranges, our minimum and maximum ranges for employees within the grade structures that they fit into. The city also recently updated. We're advocating, and wage and salary recommended as well, a 2% increase there. One of the issues that's been raised in the past is if we did nothing, or if we did an increase and match that increase with a range adjustment, people were not moving up within the min-max ranges. And basically, with what we've done here, if it gets approved by council, we'll have a 3% wage increase and 2% adjustments to the ranges. That'll basically result with employees moving up within those minimum and maximum ranges because of the lesser increase in the ranges compared to the raise or the wage increase that was approved. So that 1% differential basically on I won't say a typical employee, but on a fairly wide range of employees would be about a 3% climb in an individual minimum maximum range would be something that would be experienced, which we think was an appropriate outcome. So that's the first thing that was discussed. And then there was also specific employee equity salary adjustments that were requested. They go through this process where there's some differentials in the way union and non-union employees are compensated, which result in non-union employees somewhat lagging in terms of their climb through the minimum and maximum ranges because of a different way of compensation that comes through the CBA for union employees as opposed to non-union employees. So we have these requests occasionally for adjustments to people when they look at where they're at within the minimum maximum, or where they look at where they're at within the marketplace in their estimation. They put in a request, their department head puts in a request for an equity adjustment. We had a formal process for that this year that we followed, which was an improvement to our processes. It was pretty loose in the past, and this time there was an actual form to fill out with basic documentation that's requested. We went through that, and we have 4 of those that are being requested to be approved by council tonight. That was also the recommendation of wage and salary. And then the last item is the review process. It was more or less just an FYI kind of a situation. At the wage and salary meeting, it was communicated that it was coming up on time for the city manager and the city clerk review processes to be upcoming. And I just did an FYI on that at the wage and salary meeting. Subsequent to that, it occurred to me that we were doing a move for the non-union review processes, where we were going to switch to a calendar year process instead of a July 1st to June 30th process to match the fiscal year. We were going to switch to a calendar year, January 1 through 12/31, for all the rest of the non-union employees, and there's a couple reasons for that. It jives well with our budget process. The review process, falling when it does, is right in the middle of budget season, and it can be a pinch point for people during that time period. Doing the reviews in January after the calendar year closes, better time of the year from that standpoint. And also, if there's any changes in compensation that need to be reflected in the budget process, it allows us the opportunity to do that. So subsequent to that, just for council's consideration, is whether we want to move the city manager, city clerk review processes to the same time period. And then if that is a move that might be considered by mayor and council, I'd recommend that those two employees, myself and the city clerk, would then also be part of the non-union wage increase in July 1 at 3% if that gets passed. However, the way the report is written is consistent with past practice, that the non-union increases would be approved, excluding the clerk and the city manager, and assuming that you're going to keep that status quo. The other item was brought up just for discussion purposes and for consideration purposes. I have no particular push on that. That was just for your consideration. So we have a financial summary on that. We've got an adopted budget that would cover the wage and salary adjustments that are proposed, including those equity adjustments. The projected expense would be such that it would not require any budget amendment. And then there's also a figure in there inclusive of the clerk and the city manager. Again, we would not have an amendment that would be required. So we're just looking for mayor and council to authorize the city manager and myself to move forward with the recommended wage and benefit adjustments for non-union employees, and the adoption of that revised salary grade structure for non-union employees as well.
Any questions? Councilmember Grella Fox.
Thank you. So based on your discussion about the review period, so I believe the reviews were done a little late last year as far as for yourself and
Right.
city clerk.
There were some scheduling issues that didn't get done
So
until
those were
November.
November.
Right.
Right, okay.
Still on a July 1 through June 30th basis, but it didn't get done until November.
So in this case, your next review wouldn't be until,
If we stay status quo, we're going to be pursuing that right in this time period. If you take a look at switching us to that same non-union schedule, then it wouldn't happen until January 2024. Be a longer time period from the July 1, 2022 time period, but a little less than that when you consider that we just did it in November.
I am in favor of moving the review process, because I think I've heard a lot of comments up here, and I also believe it's hard to do anything to budget that when we've already approved a budget or the budget is underway and then we get requests. I'd rather have those requests and be able to review that and then put that into the budget. So I would be in favor of moving that.
Is that an amendment motion? I don't know, we're not really voting on that part yet, so unless you're moving to amend the motion to add that, because I support that, but.
I guess, do we need to amend the motion, Kevin?
Because right now it reads that it excludes the city clerk and the city manager.
So I would make a motion to amend that we would also include the city manager and the city clerk, their reviews, to mirror the review period of the other administrative non-union.
Well, the review's not in the motion, so it'd just be whether you're going to address the pay question. That would be the only thing to do. Otherwise, it would just be a procedural process for us to change.
So what would I need to do? How would the motion need to read? Now I'm confused.
Include the city manager and.
So if you were looking to include the clerk and the manager in the July 1st pay raise, you would just change it to not say excluding the city manager. You just eliminate that language.
So include the city manager and the city clerk in the wage adjustment, 3% wage adjustment as opposed to other non-union ones.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that motion? Councilmember Gatchell?
I would agree with that as well. I believe we got in the habit a few years ago of doing it after budget was done, because budget was viewed as this giant thing and we wanted to get through that, but it's created more issues. You need to go back. So I like that we're going to clean that up as well. So I'm in support of it.
If I could, just to clean up the motion a little bit, as far as I'm concerned, you just eliminate excluding the city manager and city clerk from it. Now you don't have to say anything else. If that means that fits with what you were doing, that's what your intent
So
was.
it would just be as amended at the end.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying the amendment. It would be easier to just exclude that language.
Okay. Very good. Councilmember Sharp, do you have a question?
No. We're only voting on the amendment.
So, are we voting on the amendment, or are we just going to, at the end, say the whole thing with the amendments about the excluding? Okay. All right. So then we have a motion and a second to approve the to alter the benefit adjustments for non-union employees including the city manager and city clerk. Correct? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that part passes. Now, Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just wanted to say I support the proposal here. And I did want to compliment both the Wage and Salary Committee and City Administration. Very transparent, lots of information. I really understood what was going on. It's in the packet. The public can read it, which I'd like. I didn't have to ask anybody how much the percents were, because it was all presented and transparent. Very well done to the committee and administration. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you. Yeah, I also want to thank administration for taking the extra time. The BLS, or the Bureau of Labor and Statistics report, was very, very helpful in kind of taking a look at it in comparison to the nation, right? And it bifurcated it between public sector, private sector, and services and manufactured goods, which was very good. But also for taking a look at surrounding communities as well for like positions. And I think in the past we've been a little reluctant to take the time to do that type of analysis when we're looking at department head recommendations for some of the equity adjustments. So again, I thank you for that extra time as well and the time put into it.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to authorize the city manager as recommended by the Wage and Salary Committee to implement wage and benefit adjustments for non-union employees, including the city manager and city clerk, and adopt the revised salary grade structure for non-union employees for fiscal year 2023-2024, effective July 1st, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That concludes the new business portion of the meeting tonight. We'll move on to the second call to the public. The rules of call to the public are the same as the first one, only you can speak whatever's on your mind. Do we have anybody for the second call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the second call to the public. Move on to city manager's comment. City Manager Brown.
So I have a city manager update before you that talks about the work anniversaries here. We've got employees celebrating from 4 years to 27 years with Louis McCaig, Sergeant Louis McCaig in the police department leading the July celebrants here with 27 years of service. So congratulations to everybody, including our own Marilyn Stamper, who's right behind at 26 years. So it's been a while for Marilyn to be serving the city of Wixom, and we're appreciative of everything she does. As you can tell, she had a lot on the agenda tonight, and thank you, Marilyn, for all the work you did for the budget and for the budget amendments that were put before us tonight, and congratulations to everybody for their work anniversaries. We've got a capital project FYI on here regarding some major capital projects that have been closed out recently, the wastewater treatment plant improvements, including the SCADA system update, oxidation ditch equipment replacement, polymer feed system, and various pumps that was closed out and came in happily under budget at about $146,000 under budget. Maple Run 2 and Courts of Highgate, that that road work, all work and lawn restoration has been completed. There's a sanitary structure adjustment in a driveway, et cetera. Final construction and engineering costs were about $300,000 under budget, which is also appreciated. Upcoming events, we wanted to put some information in there about some things that are coming out here soon. Renaissance Global Logistics, the new tenant in the 741,000 square foot building A of the Wixom Assembly Park, has scheduled a grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony for Thursday, June 29th. And if you haven't notified us of your interest to attend or not, or RSVP, please do that. Again, that's on June 29th at 2 p.m. And then we also have an upcoming Community Connections Coffee event scheduled for July 11th, which is a Tuesday at 8 a.m., which is taking place at Blue Water Technologies, which is 30303 Beck. That's our new tenant, our new business resident on Beck Road there that joined the community several years ago. They're hosting this Lakes Area Chamber event, which is really just a chance for the mayor and I to appear before a group of interested people and provide some information on some exciting developments that are happening in the city, things like the Renton development, potentially the Beck Road project, things of that nature. So we encourage anybody who's interested to attend that event. Again, it's at 30303 Beck, Blue Water Technologies, Tuesday, July 11th at 8 a.m. The clerk's office, we wanted to say that Crystal Apalco continues to pursue her Master Municipal Clerk certification, and recently attended a summer conference at the Detroit Marriott in the Renaissance Center from June 13th to June 16th. Brought a lot of information back on ethics, digital records, Open Meetings Act, things of that nature. So we appreciate Crystal's attendance there and continued diligence in pursuing Master Municipal Clerk certification. And then the last thing in the police department, congratulations to Sergeant Paul Mahala for completing his Michigan State University School of Criminal Justice Staff and Command program. He was very excited to have that completed, and we wanted to say congratulations to Sergeant Mahala on that. And then there's a bunch of dates to remember in the report as well. Congratulations to the community services staff on the Light the Night fireworks event, which just recently got completed. Another successful event there. We got some more good stuff coming up with the Family Fun Night and summer concerts and a variety of other things that are happening. And if you have any questions on anything, I'd be happy to try to address them.
Assistant City Manager Benson, do you have anything tonight?
Thank you, sir. No, beyond what was covered in my monthly report, I think I've covered enough, but if anyone had any additional questions,
I got one question for you. I can't remember where I read, but the new owners of the Heath building, they're thinking about changing the tenant or something. Do we have any idea what will be going in there?
Yeah, so I can actually give a little bit of an update on that. So we have met the new owners actually multiple times and their real estate agents. So their original plans, you may have noticed they painted the building and they're working on some exterior improvements. They're also working on drawings for the interior build out. Obviously, most people know that building had been unoccupied for a long time. So there's still a lot of work to be done. They talked about having a specific tenant in mind when they purchased it, and have now pivoted to, they're looking to basically white box it and then make it available for any business that would obviously need zoning to be able to occupy it. So we don't have a tenant identified at this point, although between that and the Buttercream Bake Shop space across the street, we're hearing and seeing a lot of interest in those spaces. So once the interior build out is complete, I anticipate it will go pretty quickly.
Very good. Thanks. Councilmember Grenell Fox?
I do have a couple questions for City Manager Brown. The projects that you talked about, specifically the wastewater treatment, is that the project that we were using ARPA monies for? Or is that something different?
Yes.
No.
Oh, no, that's upcoming. That's next year.
That's this next one.
Yeah, so that was funded through our capital improvement plan.
So the project that we're using the ARPA monies for, that is water and sewer though, correct?
Correct, that's upcoming in this budget year.
Okay.
No, it's underway at this point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, this budget year.
So hopefully we'll be coming back similar to this time next year.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And then,
It's going to be a 2-year project.
Okay. And then regarding Crystal, when is her, that's awesome, by the way, that she did that. When does she have her certification? Do you know when that'll be completed?
It'll be a while. Yes, yeah, I think she probably will have a couple more years yet.
Okay, so maybe half a year or so.
Right.
That's great. Thank you.
Anybody have questions? All right, we'll move on to council comments. Councilmember Gacho.
Thank you. I would like to congratulate Crystal on continuing her education, as well as Sergeant Mahala on his graduation or certification as well. I know we have had a pretty good track record of our officers continuing their education, whether it's with FBI or different groups, and I think it does benefit the city quite a bit. So thank you to him for doing that, because I know it was a lot of work in reading the report as well, working and going to school, and wasn't classes were like 40 hours a week as well. So quite a lot of time. So thank you to him and his family as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Graham Fox.
I'd also like to congratulate Sergeant Mahala. It's a great program. I've heard a lot of good things about it. And then I would like to thank and congratulate all those celebrating work anniversaries. Congratulations. And lastly, I wasn't able to go to the fireworks because I was out of town, but I heard some really great things about it. So thank you, Deanna. Thank you.
If I may, Your Honor, in relation to the question that Councilmember Gronlund Fox had about the projects underway at the wastewater treatment plant, that's been a massive project that maybe add that to the report that you requested earlier. We'll add some additional information about that, get you some pictures of it, because that's been, the work that's going on there is pretty impressive. So that our funding's been making a lot of improvements possible. We get to see some detail on that. So, yeah.
Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. One, also on the fireworks, and I wanted to comment, Deanna is there, Ms. McGee, that whoever the company was on the fireworks, there were some really cool fireworks too. It wasn't just exploding. They had like shapes, and so well done on vendor selection. And also nice to see our bicycle officers on the paths and all during fireworks. That was first time for me I've actually seen somebody, an officer riding one of our bikes. So it was nice to see. Maple Road, fantastic. I just can't get enough of that road. I'm like going out of my way to go back and forth on it. And I rode my bike on it. It's got a nice wide shoulder. It's so smooth, really well done. I think, did it come in under budget? Did I see that somewhere? It was
TBD, but it looks
it's a TBD, but it looks like it's under budget. And then $300,000 on the courts of Highgate under budget. Wow, fantastic work by DPW. And also want to thank our fire department crew, whoever was on call on Sunday night when those pretty strong winds came through. Everybody. And it was so nice to see. I'm driving down Charms Road looking at just havoc everywhere. And here comes the rescue unit through really slow down Charms. I assume it felt so good to know they got our back. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Smiley.
Thank you, Mayor Beagle. Just a couple of things. Congratulations, Sergeant Mahala. Maryland, 27 years. That's awesome. Happy work anniversary.
Wait a minute. It's 26. Don't do 27 because we still need it for a few more years.
Oh, I was looking at Louise. I'm sorry, 26. And just, Mr. Brown, just nice to see those under budget items. It's like, oh wow, and then combined, it's quite a nice piece of money. Other than that, I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe Independence Day. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you, Mayor. Also want to congratulate Sergeant Mahala. Deanna and crew, that was a fantastic the night celebration. My family had nothing but good to say. They enjoyed the kids' activities, the concert, and then the fireworks. Is it a new vendor?
It is a new vendor.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, even my grandkids were ecstatic about the smiley faces. How do they pack those? I have no idea. Also, a lot of exciting economic development news. That's really great for our city, both in the industrial areas as well as in the downtown. Some of the possibilities are coming up, so very exciting. Redevelopment ready community certification. We're 95%. The gauge moved from when you first started, I think it was 48% or something like that. We're at 95%. Great.
since you mentioned that, we're working on the logistics, but you all should expect some sort of, we'll be scheduling something with the MEDC for our awards, kind of our award of that certification, probably in August. There's some logistics to it, but yes, we've made a lot of progress, and we are almost there. And that will open us up to a lot of really cool opportunities, specifically that will benefit some of those development opportunities and casting a wider net and having access to more resources. So,
Access to more grants too, which is
Yes.
great. Thank you. Also, thank you to all of our citizens. I noticed a great discipline over the last few days with the power outages of treating all of our intersections as four-way stops. I didn't see any stress there. Everybody used them as four-way stops. Very good.
Very good. And I just want to echo everybody's comments on the congratulations to Sergeant Mahalo and to Crystal for her master's degree. And I'd like to congratulate everybody who's celebrating a work anniversary. I really appreciate everything that you do for the city. Great job with the fireworks, Deanna. And thanks, Tim. Tim took me back. I got a behind the scenes and saw how they did pack those fireworks and everything like that. So that was kind of cool, and how it's done. So that was pretty interesting. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support?
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.